Welcome to another video of how it's done in Bitwig. My name is Stemming and I'm proudly advertising Bitwig here. I actually prepared quite an exciting dub wobble whatsoever in Bitwig for you. And instead of getting carried away like in the last video, I'm trying to show you exactly how all of these signals are done. And I think it's time to press play. Let's loop once. And then next part. This is how it looks in the mixer. Oh. Got some bad clipping here. Oh yeah, some bad clipping. Wow. Let me just... use a limiter here. And the next part. Yeah, let's start again. Okay, we'll loop to the beginning and engage the second track. Okay, so how are things done here in this instrumental? The thing is, the original idea was to show how the wobble is done. So let me start with this, okay? Here on track Polymer, it's one of the two really good synthesizers. Well, they have plenty of synthesizers, but Polymer and Phase 4 are really serious, useful synthesizers. You've seen that I switched the two presets basically. Let me go to the beginning, which is automated, just on-off automation, and using the same synthesizer, the same plugin, but with different settings, more aggressive ones whatsoever, and automating the bypass on and off is a very useful and valuable way to give it some variation without any effort, actually. So, what did I do here? I said at the beginning, the idea of this video was to show how this wobble is done, because if I switch off the filter plus model, knack. Okay, even this is interesting. So it's basically a sine wave, yes? So here you see it's sine. The Polymer has all different types of oscillator types, simple waveforms, which can be shaped and folded, which gives a very interesting overtone spectrum. And this fold process here is done via a classic LFO and a square wave. That means it's basically skipping to somewhere, and it's time. That's the important thing. Here you have all types of timing possibilities, from incredibly slow to 64th, which is very fast. Let me show you, like, where have I been? Half? I don't know. Or like freely floating ones whatsoever. This one is shaping the fold of the sine wave. This is what's giving it those overtones, right? Apart from that, it's just a sine wave. And then the heat algorithm from the filter, actually it's the howl. So the Filter Plus plugin has, as you can see, plenty of wave shapes. And this is only the shaping part of the filter. The actual filter models are these, and the Polymer synth has the same models, but internally as a synth. Well, I have to say, in Bitwig, there isn't such a thing as internal or external whatsoever. Okay, so what's doing the wobble here is the curve LFO, which has plenty of interesting, useful waveforms, which you can use as modulation. I believe you can even, I'm not sure if you can use these as sound sources, but never mind. The interesting part is to use the, I have to switch it off, sorry, I'm like, the part where it's getting really interesting with those waveforms is to time these. So what they do is drawing a shape, but inside a musical timing. In this case, I said quarter note, but as you can see, can be a bar, half note, and then also numeric values relative to the settings, even triplets whatsoever. And then the phase can be synced to even groove, which I believe is bound to swing, but I'm not very sure. It can be synced relative on play. That means it's absolutely in grid. Okay, there's this Torso S4 sampler from that Danish company where the special feature of it is that all of its LFOs are synced with the master clock, which makes it usable in a musical context immediately, and also in the rhythmic context. That's the thing. So this curve, long text, short story, this curve is modulating the howl algorithm from the Filter Plus. And apart from that, it's basically a sine wave. Oh, and everyone who's listening to that on a smartphone, now is a good idea to switch on your headphones. And the second one is just a more aggressive variation. And if you're wondering, okay, how can you use that later on in your own track? Those two variations make a really great variation for arrangement later on. So you have the first part where you just use in this case, the second Polymer with the lower one, maybe a B variation of a bass tone. And then after the break, which I will explain later, you can use the stronger one, but all on the same track via an automation, which is just very convenient, actually. Then on the, let's say, B part, I used the Polymer again with a distortion algorithm, and this time the wavetable LFO, it's basically like the curve, but you cannot draw the wavetable. You have to use one of these Okay, so the curve is made for slow, drawable waveforms that you use for modulation. The wavetable can be used as a sound source, like in here. I'm pretty sure if I go to wavetable, hello. Yes, those are the same, basically. Usually a wavetable as a sound source, as a synthesizer source, is more complex, which for modulation is not really wanted to that extent, because it's just like too complex. That's why in this case I used quite a simple thing over here, as you can see. But the trick that I did was to use another LFO, again with a square wave, to shape the speed. So this square wave LFO switches the wavetable LFO, which which modulates stuff later on. So this is all pretty simple. Like on Bitwig, you can go totally crazy on that stuff. This is still manageable, at least for my brain. Yeah, and in general, all these modulation features. If you keep it simple, you really get, with the simple steps, you get somewhere, and I advise you to. Otherwise, it's too complicated. Even if I have a little more, okay, I'm getting carried away here. So the square wave is modulating the speed of the first wavetable LFO, that is modulating low pass and distortion. Let me apply it a bit more so you can hear it better. And it's, unfortunately, it's a bit clicky. So this is something that you would want to delete later on. Maybe if I just filter it. Yeah. Okay. So that's another variation. Then let's go to the beat. So this beat basically is a preset Legend 606 valve sonic overload. I think the valve saturation, which is always a dirty one, not really a warm one. It's valve saturation is dirty and aggressive. Yeah, cool. I like. And the main idea was to, for me, in doing this, was having this self-made, homemade, handmade drum kit, which is called case beat. Case beat in this case means, case beat in this case means I recorded sounds out of a case, like literally, and from inside closed with a double tap, a stroke, whatsoever, and cut it into pieces and build this groove out of it. If you're interested in me showing how I'm like really doing stuff like that, write it in the comments. Maybe it's an idea for another video. I'm not sure. So here, this is the organic background, and the legendary 606 is basically the straight sounds in the forefront, right? And in this case, a good idea technically is to sidechain the stuff which is in the background to not run into too much of level problems. So now we're going to, I'm down here, okay, plus now a little bit in the red, not really much of a problem. If I switch off the sidechain compression, again, I'm using the tool for that, you will see that we're pretty much always in the red. Plus 1.3. So the technical win is 1 dB with this sidechain compression. Those are the tiny details that you want during the production process. And then, if you remember last video, I was talking about the rumble and the sidechain and the different types of rumble, or the general technique, and how you can apply these to other stuff. And somehow I got carried away in this techno groove. That's why I somewhat forgot to show other appliances for that technique. And that's why in this case, I thought, okay, why not put it on the snare drum? So the snare drum from the 606 set, right? In this case, again, it's an audio receiver. Then you can grab the audio from anywhere inside the arrangement. So if you just want to grab one sound of a drum rack, drum synth, whatever, you can do this by the drum machine chains. And then here you see all the individual signals. You can even grab it at any point inside the drum synth, because like one cell of a drum synth can be a chain of many stuff, and of each part of that chain you can grab the signal. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty anything you want. Okay, so I just grabbed the snare and then put it into the reverb, and it's the basic rumble chain. The reverb, the filter, and the sidechain, which is reacting to the same snare. So the clean signal will push away the wet signal and open it once it's gone. I hope I did it pre. Yes, I did. So that's the pure snare rumble. Again, I use the curve modulator, modulating the late mix. And that's it. That's it. Can try different ones here. It's pretty wide, actually. I think like this, it's stereo, and this is further than stereo. It folds back into your head, like inside of your head. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I just had a strong coffee before that shoot. Yeah, so here's a good appliance. You can also put it, use it on, like the technique, you can apply it to very many other signals. For example, I have this strange signal up here, which I'll explain how I did it in a second. I think, yeah, this is a bounce. Oh, sorry. Because it's like heavily stretched. I love the stretching thing on audio and kind of compress it and stretch it and really abuse it in a interesting way. So it's not musically not the most beautiful thing I've ever done, but I want to show the technique on its own. So to give it more strength, I used a preset called Broken Piano, which is a phase 4. Preset. The phase 4 is basically an FM7 frequency modulation style synthesizer with 4 operators and a filter. But again, I just used a preset here. And the interesting thing is, on the next track, I used another variation of the rumble technique with an audio receiver on the Broken Piano on the track above, with a preset Ghost of Kiev, my favorite preset from the Delay Plus, a filter and a tool which is reacting to the groove. Unfortunately, it's post, so we don't see it as the groove is off. Now you see. I'm talking about the tool back here. Oh yeah, it's just it's reacting on the groove. Yeah. Bass drum snare. You see it? Boom, kak, dum, dum, kak, dum. I filtered away the hi-hat. And the other sidechain is reacting on the Broken Piano, as you can see here, right? So this the filter frequency, I'm sorry, I was lost a bit. The filter frequency this time is written, it's modulated with an automation. Not with a modulator, but it's automated. It's automated. Down here, that's the automation lane. And variation 2. And the advanced dub siren type of thing is also a preset from the Polygrid, which is Bitwig's own modular synthesizer inside the modular DAW. It's such a crazy preset, I tell you. Yeah, I use it as a dub siren here. and some type of dub siren. Congrats to the sound designer who did that. That's really, really cool. Okay, you might be asking what I'm doing here. Down here in the add flute. Okay, so that's a tiny little break. Because I was leading to that add flute sound. Whoa! I forgot in the beta you cannot pinch and zoom down here. You have to go up here. Never mind. Okay, this is also, I did a couple of things. So first, let's loop a part. Let's loop that part. And then let me switch off the plugins. It's the raw material, the original raw material. It sounds like that. I think it comes from the expressive E osmose. And yeah, I stretched and compressed it heavily beforehand, but you don't hear it that much. So it's not the most thankful, the most rewarding sound for that. But the technique alone, I thought is worth mentioning. So that's the idea, okay? And that's a clean signal. Then I applied a filter with quite a heavy heat drive, a bandpass filter again. And this is very beautiful to use in for that type of sound. And because it's quite dynamic, I thought I'm using a Compressor Plus, but in the dual mode, which has a negative ratio. That means underneath this knee value, it loudens the signal. So every time you see those colors going up, then the compressor is loudening a quiet signal. Here, it's very easily seen that the signal is very... I think you get it. I think you get it. And then there's also a peak limiter because it's all very much too loud. And I think it's time to hear it for one last time, and then I'm off. One, two, three. Yeah. It's quite a dirty filter, isn't it? Let's see if we have a clean one. So that's on the master out, yeah? Now I'm off and I will filter it down, hard coding the low pass on the main out. Okay. Cheers. I hope you liked.